Well, good evening and welcome to the Chicago Report. I'm Anita Blanton in for Paris Schutz for One Last Night. Let's get right to the biggest national story of the day. Kristi Noem is out as DHS Secretary. The news came this afternoon when President Trump said that he was replacing Noem with Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma and making her the special envoy for the yet-to-be-announced Shield of the Americas. Now, according to advisors, Trump's decision stemmed from Kristi Noem's tumultuous Homeland Security leadership and the deaths of 2 Americans in Minneapolis, of course. But they say that the final straw was this combative hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee this week. Now, the outgoing Homeland Security Secretary was delivering keynote remarks at a major cities conference in Nashville, Tennessee, when the news broke. Many Illinois lawmakers and state, federal, all levels had strong reactions to the news. Let's go over some of the statements that were sent in to us. U.S. Senate Democratic Whip Dick Durbin was one of the first to send out a statement. In fact, he said, quote, "Our country expressed outrage. She repeatedly lied before Congress, and even the president finally conceded that she was unfit for the job. Will this Oklahoma senator be any different?" And right after the news dropped, I was actually speaking with Congressman Jonathan Jackson on Chicago Live. We were set to talk solely about his late father, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., ahead of his homegoing tomorrow. But here was Congressman Jackson's first reaction to Kristi Noem's move live.
The question becomes, what took so long? She should have been gone. She never should have been confirmed. Any person that shoots their own dog, puts it in their book. I mean, she's had a lot of different challenges, and she's shown herself to be very cruel. And so it's a good thing that she's gone.
Now, on the other side of the aisle, Republican U.S. Representative Darren LaHood of Illinois sent us a statement commending Senator Markwayne Mullin, who is Noem's replacement, pending the outcome of Senate judiciary hearings, of course. It reads in part, "I have the utmost confidence in Senator Markwayne Mullin's ability to effectively lead the Department of Homeland Security. He will bring the dedication and leadership to DHS and continue to bolster our national security." Even though Noem is out, Democrats are not backing down from the DHS funding fight. Let's talk about that. This afternoon, the Senate once again failed to advance a bill to fund DHS through September. Democrats are still insisting on changes to immigration enforcement operations as a part of the measure. And like the GOP-led Senate did yesterday, the House also rejected a war powers resolution that would halt President Trump's attack on Iran that's taking place right now. Well, the primary elections are less than 2 weeks away. Of course, they're even more critical right now with so much going on in Washington, D.C. And a new article from In These Times claims some of the candidates are being bankrolled by the sports gambling industry. And actually, according to the report, a super PAC funded by DraftKings is pouring millions of dollars into Illinois races, possibly to avoid higher taxes. The reporter behind the story is Matthew Cunningham Cook. He's joining me right now to explain what he's uncovered. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
So much for having me. I appreciate it.
Go ahead and break down why you believe DraftKings and FanDuel are spending so heavily in the Illinois primaries in particular.
Yeah, so other states have approached taxing sports betting by taxing winnings. And that is a way that states can get revenue for sports betting, but also really do very little to negatively impact sports betting. That's on the flip side is Illinois' approach, where taxing on a per bet basis makes it so that the bettors are disincentivized from betting as much as possible. And that has a result of substantially decreasing the amount of sports betting in Illinois. Now, with more and more public health research coming to the fore, showcasing that sports betting can have some negative social implications, people losing money, people kind of taking it to the hilt, I think that there's a strong argument to be made to Illinois' approach. And I think that's why DraftKings and FanDuel are so concerned about this tax. These are companies that have really struggled to make a profit, and that their long-term kind of viability is based on a substantial expansion of people taking out these apps and betting on sports. And I think that their fear is if Illinois' taxes get replicated nationwide, that the business case for sports betting becomes much less strong from there for investors.
So it was in June, I'm seeing, that sports betting company DraftKings, of course, launched their PAC, and they have had some influence in other states. What do you think would be different, though, for them here in Illinois?
Yeah, I mean, right now, so yes, not just the state sports betting fee, but there's also the city kind of sports betting kind of fees. The Illinois legislature is considering preempting the city of Chicago's sports betting tax, and that's been backed by Lisa Hernandez, the chair of the Illinois Democratic Party. It just passed unanimously out of the Illinois House Gaming Committee in the past couple of weeks, and I think that that's exactly kind of what DraftKings is hoping to see from the Illinois legislature. It's rolling back kind of the existing sports betting fees and preempting any approach by the city of Chicago to tax the industry. And yeah, they're spending really big in kind of races where it's between kind of the machine and the progressive. So Jamie Andrade from Northwest Chicago, is he used to work for the Mel family, kind of deep entrenched connections to the Chicago machine, and I think that the feeling from DraftKings is if we're able to kind of ingratiate ourselves with the Chicago machine, we're going to be able to see less of an impact from these taxes.
There has been a bipartisan effort to investigate their dealings in politics. Has there been any movement on that you found?
I have found limited kind of support for kind of a deeper investigation into DraftKings and FanDuel's from regulatory authorities at this point. But I think that this is exactly the type of kind of problem that kind of folks were worried about when Citizens United was decided in the Supreme Court in 2010. 20 years ago, you couldn't have kind of an outside interest going in and spending this much money in state races. You could have kind of DraftKings' CEO making a large direct contribution to candidates, but you didn't see kind of companies being able to control their own, super PACs and really kind of spending on politics in a much more direct way in terms of corporate control than kind of what you saw under the prior system.
Thank you so much for sharing your reporting with me. It will be very interesting to see how this moves forward, the investigations into this, and even the effects on this particular election cycle.
Thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Take care. When we come back, everyone, we're going to talk to the Fulton Market Association about its opposition to a Westtown reconstruction project. Well, the CTA has 2 weeks to come up with a new safety plan to submit to the federal government or risk losing $50 million in funding. Last December, the Federal Transit Administration asked the CTA to submit a new plan because it failed to set monthly reduction targets for assaults. The CTA has until March 19th to turn in the new plan. This all follows a slew of violent incidents making national headlines, including that fatal stabbing on the Green Line and the woman set on fire on the Blue Line. FTA Administrator Mark Molinaro outlined that he wants to see more from the Transit Authority.
The state and the city ought to be investing both in prevention, intervention, and enforcement tools to support CTA and develop a strategy that protects workers and protects the riders of the system. And if they can develop such a plan that through their submission reduces month on month, significantly reduces assaults against workers and riders, then the action of withholding dollars may not be necessary.
And while we're on the topic of the CTA, last night we told you about the business owners and residents rallying against Mayor Johnson's plan to add bike lanes along Grand Avenue in Westtown. Critics say that the $1 million reconstruction project will make it harder for buses to get around, which could reduce ridership. So joining me now, Roger Romanelli with the Fulton Market Association to explain why he and others are not on board. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Anita. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So there are some things, as I understand, that you all agree on and some things that you're pretty far apart on. Let's start with the agreement. We were just hearing from the FTA administrator on this issue of safety.
Right.
And that is a big concern.
Safety is something we all in the city of Chicago agree with. And on Grand Avenue, there has been a challenge with speeders over the years. We're talking 60 years, 50 years. And so we have been very proactive, and we've worked with the city. Last year, we put in new speed limit signs on Grand Avenue. They put in a stop sign. And so it's that kind of community collaboration to make the streets safer. We hope we can collaborate on other issues too.
Mm-hmm. And when you say you want to collaborate,
Right.
The alderman for that area, Alderman LaSpada, he
Right.
sent in a message to us last night and said that there was some communication at one point in time. Is that dried up?
No, the communication is still going. The challenge is, Anita, we all understand, and I hope your viewers understand, on Grand Avenue, we're talking about making repairs for the next 100, 200 years. So when the community comes humbly to our mayor and our alderman and says, we have some ideas and we would like to talk, like we're talking, and they say, no, you had 3 years ago, we had meetings, 2 meetings, and that was your only opportunity. And we say, look, respectfully, we love Chicago. We just want to sit at the table and talk. And so Alderman LaSpada said, we already set the design, and we're still saying, let's not make a mistake for the next 100, 200 years. So we hope the alderman will at least give us some feedback on maybe some of the things we'll talk about tonight, and maybe you can help us say this is reasonable or not reasonable. We're trying to be reasonable from the community, residents, businesses, urban planners. We love Chicago. We all want to talk to each other. We hope we can do that.
Well, I want to talk to anyone
Well,
who wants to talk about
Let's
it.
do
So
it.
you all have proposed a compromise.
Yes.
What's in the compromise?
It starts with safety, Anita, okay? So if you look at one of the graphics we sent, and you look at how the city wants to design the street, we know there's traffic in our city, and we know people park. And so currently on Grand Avenue west of Damon, when there's traffic and people parking, emergency vehicles cannot get to Grand Avenue because the street has been narrowed so much. So we're saying, number one, mayor, alderman, we can't have the same pattern east of Damon because if there's an emergency, the cars and the buses, they need to pull aside. All we're asking for is a few feet so that they can pull aside and the emergency vehicles can get through. Does that sound reasonable?
Well, you all are also asking. It's not my decision to make it reasonable.
We're saying you have to get emergency vehicles. We're asking them to talk about that.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And so the city would say that there is also this issue of catching a CTA bus faster, or CTA buses getting through that area faster. That's what they're addressing. And your response is?
Well, actually, again, the buses have already slowed down on their first phase of the plan because there used to be a rush hour lane, so the buses and cars, there used to be 2 lanes at rush hour. There's only 1 lane now for all vehicles. So these buses have slowed down. And under their plan, they would take away a travel lane used by buses now going east and west from Ashland, we think all the way to Wells. Again, you would put buses and vehicles all in the same lane, going one lane east and one lane west. That would slow down our buses. Our riders need not only faster buses, but reliable. Once those buses get caught in traffic, they have no idea what time they're going to arrive. So again, we want to talk about CTA buses.
Okay, and then there's the issue of sales taxes. And obviously in the last several months especially, there's been so much conversation about the tax burden and where that lies in the city.
Right.
So how are you trying to address that?
Okay, so Anita, remember, never before in our city's history have taxpayers like you and me and working families, when they go out and buy something, now they're going to have to pay a higher sales tax to pay for the CTA. And what we're saying to the mayor, the alderman, CTA is, we can make money on Grand Avenue for CTA. More riders, more fares, lower taxes for the people. So we say we have this plan to make the buses safe, faster, reliable, more fares, more revenue, and lower taxes for everyone in Chicago. How about we just talk about it? You know, we think it's a winning idea. And I'll tell you, I'll just simply say in Fulton Market, I think we've proven that CTA service, premium CTA service, that is the secret sauce in Fulton Market. When we opened the L station, investment came. We have to improve our Grand Avenue bus. And unfortunately, the mayor's plan would slow it down, get people caught in traffic. We think people would abandon the bus, lower fares, taxes go up. That's not what we want.
So Randolph Street.
Yes.
Is that kind of the ideal for where we're trying to get with Grand?
Yeah, well, the idea on Randolph Street is we've been able to build it up, right? The Nobu development, the hotels coming in, the McDonald's headquarters, right? Bigger volume. Well, what happens when you have bigger volume? People need to take public transportation. Right now, McDonald's runs shuttle buses to get around the city. But if we can take the CTA, that's what we need to do. We need to put the CTA in the black, okay? Right now, it's 30% down in bus riders, 40% down in rail riders from 2019. We say we have a plan to put CTA in profit. We want to make a profit, and we can do it on Grand Avenue. So there's no bus on Randolph now, but the similar situation is on Randolph, we have ample parking, ample access for vehicles, and bicycles too. We do love bikes. We're not anti-bike here. So the idea is, again, you have to have premium CTA service to bring in economic development and give people access to jobs. Navy Pier, 9 million annual visitors. That Grand Avenue bus right now, 1 million annual rides. That bus can be even better, but under the mayor's plan and the alderman, unfortunately, they'd slow down the bus.
Well, hopefully
we don't want it.
more conversations can happen. I mean, with you all's compromise, you just need a few other people sitting at the table.
Wouldn't that be great?
All right. Hopefully you all get together.
Thank
you
you,
so
Nita.
much for your time.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it. Next, a conversation with a group speaking out in support of the controversial Southside Quantum campus. Welcome back. Steel is going up in South Chicago at the former Southworks site, which will become the new home of the PsiQuantum campus. The project is expected to create thousands of jobs and bring $20 billion into the region. Earlier today, I spoke to the Senior Director of Technology Partnerships, who shares why he is excited about this milestone.
I think each one of these is a new inflection point for young people in the region to think about new possibilities for their future. And certainly for us, the location in South Chicago and the very proud history of this community is a thing that we're honored to become part of. And from an educational standpoint, the opportunity to partner with and invest in STEM education at the K-12 levels with our partners at Chicago Public Schools, Chicago State University, and many other organizations in the region.
There has been some pushback from Chicagoans over this project, especially the location of it. But a new coalition called the Southworks CBA that includes Friends of the Parks is speaking in support, specifically citing community benefits. Friends of the Park Executive Director is joining me now. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's explain why your coalition believes there are community benefits to this agreement and what you all have done to try to achieve some level of understanding moving forward.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is a mammoth development. I mean, the size of this project is bigger than the Loop. And we know that the Southeast side has borne a lot of the environmental injustices over the last several decades, as well as the lack of economic development. And so to see this kind of investment can be a real opportunity for the Southeast side of Chicago and its residents, but it has to be done right and it has to be done for the community. And so we see opportunities for jobs, we see opportunities for housing, and specifically around the environment and parks, which of course my organization, Friends of the Parks, cares so much about.
And we do often hear from you when there are proposals even for developments along the lakefront, but have you all assured or received some commitments that there will be some specific things in there, benefits for Friends of the Park, benefits for the people in that community?
We have not yet. We are trying to meet with with Related Midwest, and we have yet to been able to do that. So we are looking forward to having those conversations. This is part of our interest of the last 4-mile section that runs on the south side, running from South Shore Cultural Center down to the border, that we believe should have connectivity all the way through so that residents can access everything that the Southeast side has, and to the north and to the south. And so this is a vital, important part of what we are looking at, and we think that there's an opportunity here to really put resources into the community and into public lands around it, specifically Steelworkers Park and Park 566. We've also just helped stop a landfill in the area, which is the confined disposal facility that's going to turn into a brand new park. So there's a really great opportunity if this is done right. So we have 4 recommendations that we are hoping to have real conversations about. One is to create a community fund in which $50 million goes to advancing public ways and parks. That's half of 1% of what this whole development will be. It is completely affordable for the developer to do, and we look forward to talking with them and having those conversations. We also want to make sure that this toxic land of this site that was once by U.S. Steel is remediated correctly. There's a lot of toxic land that is being handed over to the developer here. And so we need to make sure that that is remediated for the safety of the workers and the safeties of the community. The third thing that we care about is thinking about the whole land going, like I said before, South Shore Cultural Center down to the Indiana border, really thinking about a holistic framework plan of how we can make it connect for all of our residents. And then the final piece is to make sure there's public access. There's a lot that's going to be put into this project, and we want to make sure the public are not shut out, but they're actually inclusive, and we want to limit surveillance. There's a lot of concern that there'll be a surveillance that happens to people in the community, and we want to bring people in, not shut people out.
And I think that is one of the big concerns, that people don't get left behind or priced out. What do you say to people who are worried about that at this point in time, as we're already seeing the steel go up?
Yeah, absolutely. We see this happen in areas all the time in terms of gentrification and displacement of local residents. And so we want to ensure that there is housing that is for affordable housing for people who are longtime owners in the communities. And so that is a vital piece of the housing part of our community benefits agreement. So we are part of this broader coalition. We are working on the environmental and park pieces, but we have activists who've been there for decades working and fighting to develop benefit agreements with hopefully related Midwest to ensure that there is not development without displacement.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I think that this is such a big issue. Again, we're already seeing the steel go up, but it's still important to have the conversations moving forward to make sure everyone's on the same page. Brian, really appreciate the time that you've taken to speak with me about an important topic tonight.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care. That is it for us tonight here on the Chicago Report. It has been a pleasure filling in for Paris this week. But as always, keep up with all of the news that you need to know at fox32chicago.com and with the Fox Local app. We'll see you next.